Everybody knows that smoking and being obese is bad for your health, but there are other things that could be killing you, literally killing you. We're going to talk about 5 crazy, weird things that are destroying your health. I'll start with the first one, sitting a lot. You guys want to hear some data on just sitting?
Sitting on your booty?
Just sitting a lot. I have some...
Staring off into space?
Yeah, dude. So people who sat for more than 8 hours a day with no physical activity, ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Had a risk of dying that was like people who were obese and smoked.
Wow.
Just by sitting a lot.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? Now, you could offset that with about 60 to 75 minutes of moderate, intense physical activity a day. But if you're, and now this is a big one because the landscape of what we do during the day has changed so much over the last 5 decades. It used to be where a lot of jobs involved at least walking or physical activity.
Yeah.
50, 60 years ago, a desk job where you sat all day wasn't super common, even if you were like a lawyer maybe. But these days, it's the norm. It's the norm to sit all day long. And unless you exercise vigorously 60 to 75 minutes every day, you're going to get negative effects. And again, people who don't exercise and do this, you might as well be obese and smoke. Yeah, that's how bad it is.
I mean, you're not getting any sunlight. You're underneath all these like artificial lights. You're literally not expressing any of the systems of your body. Like you're not, which need constant movement. You need that blood flow. You need these things to operate and stay relevant. Otherwise, your body starts to downregulate everything. And so to sit it's a slow death. That's how I've always looked at it.
Totally.
What are the outcomes that it's connected to, right? Obviously, saying something like obesity and cigarettes is pretty general and vague, right? Like it's as bad as that. But what does that mean? Does that mean that
heart attack?
I was going to say, do we see an
diabetes,
increase?
Yep, all of it. Okay. Heart attack, diabetes, cancer.
What about too, like chronic pain? I just feel like when someone is so sedentary out there, one of the most common things you see too is just like, the body will prune whatever you don't use, right? So if you decide you're not going to lift your arm above your head for 10 years straight,
you'll lose it.
You'll lose it.
Yep.
And how many times have you seen this with a client where there's like, I just can't do that. And it's because they stopped doing it. And so the body just goes, okay, we don't need to do this anymore.
You got weak, which is like the next one, right? You just sit there, you're not expressing your muscles, you start pruning down. Inevitably, you're just going to be weak all over.
We'll get to that one. We'll get to the weak one because that's another one. But just to continue to focus on sitting, your body will only ever be as fit, strong, stamina, as it needs to be. It'll never be more than it believes it needs to be. So if you're sitting all day long, your body adapts to that. And it is a slow death. You atrophy. Your circulatory system requires contraction of muscles to pump blood effectively. So does your lymphatic system. So, blood pools in your lower extremities. You got to move and contract those muscles to get that blood flow. Same thing again with the lymphatic system. Your digestive system also needs movement. There are muscles that pass through the digestive system that massage the digestive system and get it to actually process food properly. Insulin sensitivity is highly affected by movement, or to put it differently, negatively affected by not moving. You want mitochondrial dysfunction, right? That's a buzz term these days, poor mitochondrial health. Don't move. And then just to kind of hammer this home, through all of human history, because remember your body is getting signals from getting outside signals. So what you're doing tells your body. It also reports to your body what kind of health you have, okay? The only times in human history where we were indoors and didn't move all day long was when we were not good to be around. We were sick. And so your body slowly gets that message and says, we're sick right now. And your body will actually morph and shape itself to the positions that you're in all the time. So this is why people can't squat. This is why posture is so bad. You used to see this, you still see this. This was more common back in the day when we had less awareness around osteoporosis. But you would see humpbacks, especially in elderly women. Women who didn't constantly strengthen their bodies, they would get this frailty that resulted in these microfractures in their spine. They would develop this kind of humpback that, over time. So sitting all day long is absolutely terrible
It
for
literally
your health.
slows everything down.
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, cognitively as well. So you get to the point too, where it's like, you're, all of that affects your mental state, which then turns into depression.
Dude, you're so right, because the brain is what controls the rest of the body. When you're not moving your muscles, they get weaker. When you're not moving your muscles, your brain gets weaker, because it is what's connected to the rest of your body. And so your brain, a healthy brain looks different than an unhealthy brain. And it's hypertrophy of the brain happens just like with the muscles. And sitting all day long is one of the worst things you could do. Now, how do you offset that? Well, an easy way to offset that is every 30 to 60 minutes, get up and move a little bit. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I don't have time to work out. I work at a desk job. I sit all day long. You have a little alarm that goes off every 30 minutes. Stand up, do 5 body weight squats, sit down. Like literally that small amount of movement makes a significant impact on your health. You stand up, move for 5 minutes, sit back down. By the way, if you're thinking, I can't do that, I have to stay at my desk, there's also studies that show that productivity goes up by doing that. In other words, taking 5 minutes out of every 30 minutes to move will actually give you more back in productivity. So you're not going to do less work, you'll actually do more work as a result of moving every 30 minutes or so.
Isn't this where the 8 to 10,000 steps a day thing came from?
That's
right. Like if you just did that, like the all-cause mortality and things like that go significantly down.
8,000 steps a day gives you 80% of the benefits you'll get from movement. So literally, fine, I don't work out, I don't do structured exercise, I just want to be healthy from an exercise perspective. 8,000 steps a day, you'll get 80% of all the benefits you'll get from exercise, like majority. And most people can accomplish 8,000 steps a day if they did little micro walks, every 30 minutes to an hour.
It's funny that we know that, and yet we all have admitted how guilty we were of scoffing at people in our early 20s that said things like, when you asked them, what do you do for exercise? Oh, I walk,
that's not workout.
Yeah. And it's not working out.
Yeah, no.
When in reality, they're 80% of the way there just simply by doing that. And if I can just get them to incorporate a day or two of some strength training, I mean, you're way ahead of everybody else.
Totally. Next one is being weak. So we know obesity, right? But being weak is really bad for your health. In fact, this is now probably going to be implemented widespread in most Western medical systems, where they're going to use a hand dynamometer and test your grip strength, and they're going to use this as a very easy way to predict all-cause mortality. It's so effective at predicting all-cause mortality that independently, your grip strength is a better predictor than almost any other single predictor, and better than most 2 or 3 combined. It really does a good job. By the way, there's nothing magical about grip strength. It's just a proxy for overall
it's
body
a
strength.
metric for whether or not you're going to be independent or dependent.
Yes.
And that's really what we're looking at, is like, how dependent are you on other people to, provide care for you, versus you being able to get up and take action yourself and really, take control.
Well, I'll show you a study, by the way. But so the studies also they show this. Okay, if you have a strong grip, and by the way, strong grip is not like you're like a bodybuilder, but rather generally strong for your age group or whatever, versus weak. If you have a strong grip, your risk of everything goes down. Heart disease, cancer, definitely cognitive decline. That's a big one. The really, really strong connection there. And if you're in the lowest percentage, everything skyrockets, and everything including your risk of falling. They actually did a huge study on people 65 and older and found that older men that were in the lower quartile of strength had a 42% increased risk of falling versus those who were stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Just falling, not all the other stuff I said, but just falling down, which is like one of the number one ways that people who are older die. Not necessarily the fall itself, but falling and then what that causes.
Yeah, because they'll break a bone and then now all of a sudden their
health declines quickly.
Real rapidly.
Well, one of the hallmarks of weakness is also instability.
Oh, yeah.
So if you are
balance,
if you're weak, one of the things to go is the balance and stability, which is obviously super important. What do you guys think of the test of getting up off the ground with no hands.
That's another one.
I love it.
So
I think it's such a good basic thing to like teach people, like, just don't lose this.
They use that. So when they were looking at strength and its connection to all-cause mortality, that was one of the first things that they tested. The reason why they went with grip strength is because grip strength is easy to test in an office.
Yeah.
Whereas you could take, okay, everybody get on the floor, try and stand up. You know, you could just give someone something, have them squeeze it. But both of them will show. I think getting up off the floor is a better predictor.
I think so too.
But grip strength is really, really good.
Just because that requires some mobility, stability, and component to do it, right? Grip strength gives a good overall measure of strength, which is pretty good, pretty general, and pointing us in the right direction. But your ability to get up off the floor with no hands requires some good hip mobility, leg strength, stability. So you get a little bit of both with that. Right. I've always thought that was such a great test with my advanced age clients to do.
Today's program giveaway, Maps Strong. It's a fun program. Here's how you can win it. Leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. Also, we got a sale this month. Maps Performance and Maps Performance Advanced. They're both half off. If you want one of those or both of them, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and you use the code MARCH50 for the discount. All right, here comes the show. Now, to offset this, if you just wanted to prevent yourself from getting weaker as you got older, one strength training workout probably every 10 days or so is enough. If you want to not get weaker, but actually get stronger, 2 days a week of 35, 45 minutes of strength training is enough to get you progressing and stronger. Now, you're not going to be a bodybuilder, you're not going to hit the crazy PRs, but when it comes to longevity and health, like, that's all you need. Really don't need a much to get your body to be strong or stronger.
It's crazy. We're sort of in that period of life now where, like, our parents and people around us, like, you start really visibly seeing like this lack of strength and how this is really spiraling into, really unhealthy situations. And, it's tough because, like, I think sometimes they don't realize, it's not everything at once. Like, you can't just do like that one workout a week. And that's like really all we're asking is to just start with that and even stay there at that
I
point.
had, towards the back half of my career, I did have a significant portion of clients that were advanced age, right? 60 and older. The majority of my 60 and older clients worked out with me once a week. Majority. Most of them only lifted weights with me once a week, and then they walked on their own. And they all saw remarkable gains in strength.
Well, I mean, you've talked about the study before that, what is it, to just not lose the muscle, it's once every 2 weeks?
Yeah, once every 10 days or 14 days, something like that.
Yeah, so if you're doing it once a week, then you're already increasing frequency, so you could build strength technically off of that. So if you combine that with the 8,000 steps, combine that with walking 8,000 steps a day, the ability to get off the ground, and strength training 1 day a week, full body.
You're good.
You're
checking the boxes.
You're definitely in the top 10 percentile by just being able to do that. Right.
Next up, here's a weird one: watching the news a lot. This one's cool. So when I found some
Fox
studies
News
on this.
Dad. Yeah.
So people who watch the news a lot, 73% of them had severe levels of problematic issues like anxiety. They had poor physical and mental well-being. It was in a extreme net negative on their mental and physical health. So these are people who say that they watch a lot of news. So people who report and say, I watch a lot of news, I watch it daily. All their health markers are worse, especially mental health.
Yeah, same ones that yell at people, driving by the neighborhood.
Yeah,
this is not surprising to me at all. And I think that you could actually put a lot more things in this category than just the news, because this is the nutrition for your brain. And if you ate junk food all the time, we know what that would do to your gut and your health and your body fat, right? How unhealthy that would be to eat junk food all the time. And that's the same thing for the brain. You consuming reality TV, negative news, social media bullshit, like all the time, that's what you're feeding the brain. And of course, if you're feeding it with this stuff that is addictive and negative and controversial, and of course,
here's a stat that I was looking for. 61% of people who report watching a lot of news, when they say, yeah, I watch it quite a bit or very much, actually, so 61% of those people report experiencing being physically ill and mentally ill versus 6% of other people. 61% versus 6%. Huh. And they control other factors for this. And that's just the news.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the psychology of this, the way it's explained is there's a couple explanations. One of the main ones is when you are consuming information that's alarming, that you have zero control over constantly, that is a bad place to be mentally. This is why, as a parent, you don't tell your kids scary stuff that they don't have any control over.
You don't inundate them with the world problems that they can't affect.
That's right.
Now.
So here you are watching the news. You're living in wherever America, and there's stuff happening over here and over there, and a kid got kidnapped over there, and oh my God, this terrible thing happened over there. None of it's in your neighborhood. None of it you have any impact over. None of it you can really do anything about, and it's just ringing alarm bells as if it was in your backyard, as if it was something that you could. But now you can't control it. It's a terrible. In fact, therapists and psychologists often recommend people who have lots of anxiety and stress. It's one of the first things they say. Very easy. Just stop watching the news and watch what happens. Like turn it off and see. Now people are like, I need to be informed. No, you don't. You don't. I've had this conversation with people many times. If there's something you need to know, you'll know it. You're not going to be taken surprise. And if you're taken surprise, everybody's taken a surprise. So it's not like, your buddy's probably going to come up to you and be like, everybody, we need to have, this crazy thing's happening tomorrow. Like, you'll know.
You didn't know there was zombies?
Yes. It's better to not know because you don't have the capacity to handle or take care of any of it. And all you're doing is making yourself worse, which then affects your ability to actually impact things you can impact. So in other words, you can impact your family, you can impact yourself, you can impact your community and your work, and yet you're allowing things that you can't impact the things that you can impact. So this is why you just turn it off.
I mean, it helps when you look at it through the lens that the intent of the news is to manipulate you to feel a certain way.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I came in here the other day talking to you guys about like, man, I sure feel like we're getting this like conservative message shoved down our throat. And I can feel it. Yeah. I can feel being fed that, and it's and really easily when it's your team that's winning or it's your team scoring the points, you get so caught up in the, good, I'm glad we're doing it. Oh, yeah.
Screw those guys.
Yeah, and then you go like, oh, wait a second. You know what I'm saying?
I'm falling for it.
Yeah, this is how they want me to feel. This is what they want me to think. And it's like, it's never, I don't know, news to me is just not what news used to be. Like news 50, 60 years ago was a lot different than what.
It was on once a day or twice a day at most.
Right.
Now it's a 24-hour news cycle. And if you're on social media, your algorithm probably is injecting news into your algorithm every 5 or 6 posts, sometimes every post.
Well, even old news will just weave in there.
That's right.
Yeah, just to make sure you're scared of something.
That's right. All right, next up, not going outside. Not going outside has terrible impacts on health. I have some stuff on that. So children today, okay, and I'm sure you could very easily, bring this to adults too. Children today versus 20 years ago. So just 20 years ago. That's not a long time ago.
Just shared the prison thing.
Yeah. 50% less time outside.
Yeah.
They spend half as much. By the way, children 20 years ago probably spent significant less time outside than the kids 20 years before that. So it's just this constant decline of going outside.
Oh, less than prisoners. That's wild to me.
I know.
It's crazy.
Here are all the things connected to not going outdoors regularly. Anxiety, behavioral issues, declining health and well-being, depression, increased levels of stress, obesity, trouble maintaining focus, and then vitamin D deficiency. So every day go outside. It's very, very important you do this.
This is one of those things that if you've been in the health and fitness space for as long as we have, this, right? Mm-hmm. It never became so obvious to me on just how powerful it was until I had a son. Mm-hmm. And I remember having this conversation with Katrina, like how clear it was when we made a conscious effort as soon as like the sun came up and the day started, getting him outside in the backyard and kind of playing and doing our thing, versus let's say a rainy day or a day where he's indoors all day. I mean, it was like night and day difference. and anybody who has kids, like just pay attention, like literally.
And we think we're different because we're adults.
I know, right? And that's sort of my point is just like that to me. I knew it already, but like seeing it manifest in your child, who's just this innocent, body running around trying to figure things out, watching them completely shift and change from a day out in the sun versus a day.
You know what's funny about this, by the way? Is that people get this with their pets. Like if you have a dog and he's chewing on your furniture and pissing on things, first thing someone's going to tell you is, bro, get your dog outside.
Yeah.
Oh, he hasn't been outside all day long.
We don't want to look at us as animals. Like, we're animals. Like, we need the same thing. We need water. We need food. We need sunlight. We need all the things. So yeah, it's just funny that, we totally do that with animals.
Yeah, it's funny. So go outside. It's very good for you. It's been documented. By the way, I'll say it a different way. Indoors is the processed food of outdoors. So, we talk about processed food, fake food versus real food. Inside is fake outside. We create fake outside, inside with lights and all the stuff inside, and it's, temperature controlled. It's not outside. It's a fake substitute, and the results of which are negative health impacts. Yeah. All right, lastly, eating too quickly. Eating too quickly is not good for you. There was a review of 23 studies on the topic. This was published in the International Journal of Obesity. It found that eating quickly is very strongly associated with higher body weight. Now, when you eat quickly, you don't get the satiety signals as fast. In fact, it's so funny. I actually had this experience. I totally forgot about this. My wife and I, every once in a while, we will indulge in certain types of foods. And for whatever reason, one of them is a hot dog. My wife and I like good old-fashioned hot dogs that you get either the ballpark or you leave a concert. They have them outside. There's guys making them or whatever. And
those street dogs are bomb, by the way.
They're so good, right?
I mean, those are good.
Terribly unhealthy.
Peppers.
Delicious. Terribly unhealthy, okay? And we'll do it like I said, it's like once in a blue moon, right? But we got one.
The smell gets
We ate it, and we're like, do you want to get another one? Like, yeah. But then we had to wait. We had to wait in line. Then we waited in line. And then we got to the front. And then we looked at each other like, I don't want one anymore. We missed the window.
Yeah.
And we both laughed about it because what happened was the first one, we ate so fast.
Yeah.
Then we waited in a line. The satiety signals hit us. And we actually it was funny because we laughed about it because we're like, we missed the window of being able to eat another one because now I don't want to eat another one type of deal.
That's so true.
It's so true.
I remember when early trainer and I wish I remember the name of the diet. I think it was called like the 52 Chews.
Yeah, you're right.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
And of course, back then I thought it was so silly and a gimmick. But when
there's all these studies, by the way, showing it works.
And that's why. Because when and by the way, if you've never done this, like the next time you sit down and you eat a steak or eat something like that, like just count your chews. And I forget I think the number is north of 38. I want to say it's somewhere between 38 and 52. I don't remember the exact number. But there is a number that for just general health and digestion, what you're supposed to chew meat like that before you, and like pay attention to like how much, like you're probably doing half or a third of what you need to be chewing. And just that alone as advice that allows the digestive process to go the way it's supposed to and the natural signs of satiety to be produced, it makes a world of a difference.
The second you start chewing.
Yeah, I remember applying this, but by taking and eliminating something to drink with my meals, which forces that a bit more, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, because and I'm pretty sure I never got scoped or anything, but I'm pretty sure I had like a hiatal hernia, like to where it's like it restricts that opening, and so it's like, dude, I was like choking on everything, and I had to like chew it down to powder in a sense. But yeah, it was like eye opening in terms of like how everything, like I got satiety signal was much more prevalent, and just. You pay attention to like what you're eating and the flavors and the food. It's a totally different experience.
At the bare minimum, people should do it as as an awareness thing. Like, I'm not saying that you should count every single time you chew. Like that would get ridiculous. But at least pay attention, because to what your point, Justin, is like, we're guilty of this. Like you take a bite and then you may chew it twice and then you wash it down.
You're thinking of the next bite.
Yeah. You're already on to the next one, and you didn't even chew but a couple times, and you're already washing it out. Did you look up, Doug, how many chews it is?
Yeah, 32.
Oh, it's 32.
Yeah.
I remember
it's as a trainer, this was I didn't know it was an issue until like you, Justin. I had digestive issues, and someone talked to me about this. Now, the reason why I ate so quickly was I was training 9 clients in a day, sometimes 10.
You had a little 5-minute break between
I had
clients.
a 5-minute
Wolf
break
it down.
to eat my 50 grams of protein, my 100 grams of carb, and so it was like, I was taking supplements. I was like, chew, wash it down, chew, wash it down.
We did that forever.
Absolutely. The digestive process starts in the mouth. That's why we chew food. You're actually digesting it in your mouth, and it's producing digestive enzymes. Your gallbladder is producing, bile. Your body is starting the digestive process by chewing. So one of the things you could do is A, don't drink lots of smoothies. That's terrible. And B, don't have fluid. Don't have any fluid with your meals, and that'll help quite a bit. By the way, there's other studies that show that eating slowly, not distracted, will reduce your calories naturally by 10%. So in other words, not even trying to track. If I just eat slowly and don't distract, because distractions will also do that, right? If I'm watching TV or on my phone, I'll pick up on the satiety signals later. But if you don't distract yourself, chew your food, don't drink anything, you'll cut your calories on its own. In other words, you're just full 10% with 10% less calories, which is super.
So it's really interesting when you think about whether you believe that how evolution happened or God made us this way, that we have these natural abilities if we just do things naturally that would help us or keep us from becoming obese. Like if you ate just whole foods and you didn't do it distracted and you chewed your food,
obesity would almost not exist.
It would solve just
the vast majority of it.
And we have so many diets out there, and we argue who's got the best science for this.
You need to listen to grandma.
And it's time. Just do that.
Chew your food.
Just try that, and you'd be surprised how much of a difference that by itself will make with just being not distracted, chewing your food, eat whole foods. It's like trying to weigh, track, measure, and really it's not even necessary if you were to just do those things.
All right, so I'm gonna switch topics here. I got this really interesting study I got from Science Daily. It was published recently, March 17th. Came out of the University of California, and surgeons, they're always looking at ways to improve recovery. Like the speed of recovery, how well they recover after surgery, all that stuff. And this was an interesting study. You know what they did? They did psychological work or rehab work, mental work, pre and post surgery. And here's what they found. They found that psychological prehabilitation significantly reduced the length of hospital stay, pain, anxiety, and depression after surgery. So obviously hospital stay, that's an obvious one. But a lot of people, and then pain, but a lot of people experience anxiety and depression after surgery because you're in a bed, you can't move, you're on meds, right? But then, your hospital stay. Here's what they found. Doing the psychological prehab, so psychotherapy and acceptance and commitment therapy, reduced the length of hospital stay on average by 1.6 days. So more than a full day in the hospital was reduced from that. They weren't doing any movement. It wasn't a new medication. It wasn't any change in diet.
So what does that look like?
Psychological work. So supportive psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, basically, working on the person's mental state.
Before and going into
before
surgery.
and after.
Yeah.
A decrease in pain by an average of 3.5 points, which is significant. Lower anxiety levels, regardless of which validated anxiety scale was used, and reduced depression levels, regardless of which depression scale was used.
Wow.
From the mental work. Crazy, right? So you think of the physical stuff that's happening in your body and how much your mental state affects your physical state, which is pretty wild.
It'd be interesting to be almost like coached up, right before you get into like a surgery like that, because it is a major event. It's something that a lot of people have a lot of anxiety. Obviously, white coat syndrome and all that's a real thing for people to, address that going in. Of course, that's going to.
I remember talking with some. I remember my surgeon clients said something once. They said one of them operated on a kid, and he brought this up, and then I asked my other surgeons about this, and they said that oftentimes kids use way less pain meds post-surgery, and you got to keep them in bed because they want to get up and run around. I'm like, what? Why? And he goes, because they don't know.
They don't know how to react.
They don't know they're supposed to be in pain.
Right.
Whereas an adult will get a surgery with like, I need 2 weeks off work. You can send me some Norcos or whatever. And the little kids like, you know, they're like, no, stay in bed, Timmy. Stop running around. You know, we just did it, just did a hernia surgery or something like that.
Oh, see, this is where too, it's like a blessing and a curse having a wife as a nurse. Cause when I had surgery, it was like, I was like comfortable. I'm like, okay, oof, that was, I felt that. And I was like sore and everything, laying in bed. And she's like, get up, go walk down the hall. I'm like, no, I don't want to just do it. It was pressing me on it. And then it got me out a day early. So it is, it's, again, like it's a mentality that I think people like going through that. It's like, oh man, you're trying to just kind of heal up, but sometimes you need that extra kind of push.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Huh?
What do you ask me for? I want to make sure this guy has plenty of space.
No, come on, bro.
I want to make sure he's got plenty of space to say the things he wants to say.
You guys with the YouTube comments making Animal insecure.
That is the funniest.
Fuck y'all.
Doug, do you have some of the comments?
Well, we got need some context here.
Okay, so we did.
What do you mean you need context? Anybody who's been listening to the show for the last week knows that I was absent for the first time
Poor
in
Adam
years.
Was super sick, so he wasn't here for an episode or two. And
one of the best episodes they've ever done.
Yeah, that's what did the comments
According
say?
to the comments,
salty. I mean, the comments ranged from people just saying, we're just so happy to hear Justin talk more.
Yeah.
However, they got a little bit mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, here's one. It's a little.
I have a different take on this.
Yeah, he says, honestly, didn't even notice Adam wasn't present.
Oh, wow.
That's a little harsh,
Wow, bro.
Yeah, Justin has such a calm and mellow vibe. Adam always gets a little aggressive. Hope he recovers soon, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And then this one guy said, so much better without Adam.
No! No, dude. No.
I got to start giving him a space.
No.
I didn't realize that I talk over him.
Yeah, you did. Shut up, bro.
I didn't know I did that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, well, you can't keep doing
liberating.
that. Justin used up almost all his words on that episode, so we can't keep
Yeah, exactly. Like that was such a stretch. What you don't realize, you guys, okay, is that this like totally reflects real life. Like I only have like that 10% in the conversation anyways. That's all I'm here for.
Adam and I are just blah, blah, blah.
Just all day.
I think that's the one that gets me the most is I really don't feel like I interrupt you. At least I don't think so. But if enough people are telling me that I do that, I'm trying to be aware. I'll try and be more aware of not talking over Justin and giving him his space because he has so much intelligent stuff to talk about. So, heaven forbid.
You guys struck a nerve, man.
You know what's funny? They don't even know what they're doing. All you guys need to do is give Adam an excuse to just do the other business stuff and have us do the podcast.
I'll gladly.
He loves it. He's sharing that stuff with us.
Replace
I'm
myself.
great.
No,
sure.
cool. You guys do that. I'll over here manage our money is what he's going to do.
Yeah. I think there was a narcissistic one too.
That guy's a dude.
I like the
didn't
limelight or whatever.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Bro. You and I have the oldest child syndrome. That's what it is, bro.
I guess.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
True, right?
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, we have a free guide. It's the benefits of eating whole foods. This gives you a shopping list, what foods are best for proteins, fats, carbohydrates. There's recipe samples. It's all based on real, whole, natural foods, and it's a free guide. It's totally free. You can get it if you go to wholefoodsguide.com or by clicking on the link in the description below.
You wonder what the dynamic looks like if you have different personalities in this. I know you guys are. I know the two of you have started watching. I was watching the series on HBO. So good. Inside the NBA and the four hosts that are on there. And when I think about, like, obviously this is we've been doing this for 10 years, and so I'm always watching people that are in media and what they do, and always trying to learn. Right, what are things that we can take away? I would say that if there was anybody that I'm enamored by or aspire to be like, it's the four of those guys. The way
chemistry.
Great chemistry,
amazing chemistry,
and they have this. Like you obviously tune into that if you are watching the NBA, and they need to have, like, Shaq and Kenny and Charles need to have basketball knowledge, right? Because that's what you don't respect what they have to say if you don't respect who they were as players. And so even though we're not talking about sports, I feel like that's kind of what we do in fitness, right? Is we've all done this for a really long time, even though we're all very different, train different types of clients. We're all really good at what we did. And so we have that type of respect. And then it's very similar as far as the dynamic of, playing with the personalities and the
melding different personalities together. It makes it more dynamic and interesting. Otherwise, if I was just like you guys, way less interesting.
No,
like it's like
you're the likable factor. You're the likability factor. Who is it?
No, they're encouraging me because they think there's a deficit here.
Shut up. So you can never take a compliment.
Listen, I work on this stuff all the time, and I don't want to fuck it up when it's like somebody's gone. Like I want to make sure it's still like okay and like presentable.
If you ever give Justin a compliment, he finds a way to make it not a compliment. You do great. You're very likable.
I can't help it.
Adam and I are, we're acquired taste, I guess.
Oh, that's for sure. Oh yeah, no, it's
more
for sure.
polarizing.
Polarizing.
I don't know about you, but I always embrace that. Like I don't want to be liked by everybody. I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's part of like who I am. You're either gonna like me or you're not gonna like me, and 100%.
What was the name? Didn't you have? This is your first social media.
We love to hate Adam.
We loved. Yeah, that's where it came from, right?
Yeah. I mean, that came more related to fitness, right? Like your clients hating you when you're working them out or whatever like that, but then they love me afterwards, right? So, but I think I've had a polarizing personality since I was a kid.
Really? Ever since you were little?
I'm resistant to the crowd. Like I don't want to do what everybody else. I mean, we talked about this just the other day with jiu-jitsu. Like I really want to do jiu-jitsu, but what keeps me from doing it? So many people do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just weird like that, where it's like if somebody dresses this way or does this thing, I'm so resistant to being that. I'd much rather bring on the talking shit to me, bullying me for being different than to fall in line with everybody else. I embrace the...
Well, I feel like we all have that. That's why
that is something that we have in common. We all, I think all of us have that. Also, what makes this work is that nobody truly wants the limelight or the attention. No. That's why it's like just like a great team, right? Like you have a great basketball or football team, like the ones that are really good is that nobody has to be him. You know what I'm saying? No, everybody wants to win and at all costs. At the end of the day, for us, it's always, can we present really good, valuable content that people walk away, maybe they laugh a little bit, maybe they learn something a little bit, but they walk away feeling like, I didn't waste that hour and a half of my time. It was well worth that.
There's some value
and
there.
That's winning. Yeah. Whether Justin said all the talking or Sal did all the talking or whatever, none of that matters at all, so long as they walk away with the feeling of that. So
I was polarizing because I was having an opinion, which is shocking. I always had even as a kid, I had a strong opinion about something.
Well, you talk in certainties a lot.
Oh,
yeah, which is a strength, right? I mean, it's a strength.
People follow that immediately
to speak confidently.
It's also known as arrogance, maybe, or a little bit. So that's what I've been told.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I mean, I'm attracted to qualities like that. Like I like people that feel strong because I also feel I'm opinionated too.
Yeah.
And the way I've learned my whole life is by speaking up, by having strong opinions, but I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong. I'll be the first to admit
I love learning that way.
Yes, that's how I learn too.
It turns off, sometimes people get turned off by it, but I love having a strong opinion and then now I don't like fighting. Like if you can't debate without fighting,
no,
like, okay.
a good debate.
But if you're like, no, here's what's going on. Here's the data. Here's what I'm, here's the evidence. And we go back and forth. I've had clients like that where these really heated debates.
Yeah.
And I love it. I learn, it's mental sparring, but I enjoy it. I'm not trying to necessarily win. I think I'm right, but there's so many times that came out and I was like, whoa, that was wrong.
I have to care about the subject.
Huh? Yeah, otherwise you're like,
otherwise I'll let you squabble it out and I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but imagine too, like how, like for the audience who doesn't get to see the behind the scenes, loud debates and arguments and stuff like that, it would be really crazy if you and Doug were like Sal and I when it comes to opinions about that. Like because then it would
be
just
crazy.
It would just be hard it'd be too much. It'd be hard to get anywhere. It's literally already a lot for the two of us.
I'm just laughing. Doug's over there quiet.
I mean, that's what it kind of looks like, right?
His head though.
No, I know what he's thinking to say. I'll just let him say it because I feel it right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's what happens a lot off. But I mean, shit, we wouldn't. I definitely think that is so much of what led this to be successful is that you have four leaders in their different ways, right? Everybody leads in a different way. Very like nobody wants to conform. Everybody feels strong about their opinion, and you fight for it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, though, the fight is never led by ego. It's always about the team. It's always
let's go.
It's always about winning. Like I never want to fight with you guys just so I could be right. Like I don't give a shit about that. Like I want the right answer.
Yeah.
And if that means we got to go at it a little bit and I got to passionately stand up for what I believe and you're going to stand up for you and we're going to go butt heads for a while, bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. I love
my
that.
opinion.
Have you seen the studies on like really effective teams or they'll look at like Navy SEALs or these elite military teams, and what they'll find is they seamlessly trade positions depending on the circumstance.
Yeah.
Somebody will lead and it's seamless. Everybody will
Based
follow.
on the strength of that person.
Right.
Yeah.
And that right there, when a team can do that, that is, you're unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable. It's a seamless transition and people have no problem leading or following when the situation.
Well, that's the part of this
arises.
conversation that the average person doesn't understand. So what they interpret sometimes of is egotistical, narcissistic, or someone talking over somebody is really the beautiful flow of a game.
Yeah.
Is this ability to know my teammates so well. And I know when Justin's like, I've made my point. I got nothing else to say.
And I'm done.
Yeah. And, you know, and Sal also, when Adam loses his train of thought or the direction he's going, like we all know each other so well.
Remember that one podcast we were on where that happened?
Yeah, right.
That was my favorite.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite moments. We were
Never
on a show-
practiced, never talked about. Just
No, we were on a show and Adam
interviewing
was
down in
making
LA.
a point and he started kind of coughing a little bit. And so I just kind of took over. But what happened was Adam lost his train of thought, started coughing to pause. So I'm going to take over. And afterwards he came up to me. He's like, bro, thank you so much. I'm like, I didn't even know that's what happened, but I just took over.
But that's an example of that. That's such a good example because it's not like it wasn't rehearsed. It's not. It's just beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts about doing this and why I could see doing this for so long is I love flow. Like, and I miss it because I don't play sports anymore. And that was the snowboarding, organized sports, and probably this podcast are the three closest feelings of flow state that I've ever felt. And so at least this, I get a little bit of that. There's moments when just things are flowing. The conversation is dynamic.
It's a good time.
And by the way, a lot of it is there is talking over and all that stuff. Like that's part of that flow for us. Although, you know, maybe the listener, you know, that wants to only hear Sal talk and tell studies and all the facts, you know what I'm saying? Like to them, they get annoyed by it, but it's like, no, for me, it's a beautiful sense of flow state.
So for the rest of the episode, we're just going to have Justin.
Yes.
The rest of the
Yeah.
episode.
So go ahead, take it from here, Justin.
I'm going to take you guys on a journey.
Hey, I got a study on, I love studies like this. There's no results of it. They're just looking for people. But I read, yeah, like what kind of person do you think is attracted to this? Okay, and this will highlight why some studies are. You got to be careful with how you interpret the data. So there's the space agency is offering $5,000 to volunteers who are going to stay in bed for 10 days straight. So for 10 days.
Do they get paid?
They get $5,000.
Oh, for sure. There's a ton of people signing up.
Yeah, but who in particular? This sounds like college guys.
Yeah, college.
I mean, they're the ones that will do any study because
Yeah,
they're broke.
dude. Yeah, bro. I'll lay in bed for 10 days. For $5,000. Hell yeah.
$5,000's a good amount of money for that.
Bro.
Money ever.
That's torture though. You imagine 10 days straight in bed
That's a
for
lot.
$5,000.
I know I brought it up
Yeah, that sucks,
again today,
actually.
and I brought it up originally, but I'm so hung up on that prison study with kids to me
know.
because why that's so fascinating to me is that we are volunteering to do that. Like we are choosing to basically what we consider punishment and prison for somebody, you know, locking them in indoors for 90% of their day, giving them a very small window where they can be out in the sunshine. We do that as a punishment, and yet kids today are opting
seeking
in
it out
to do that. That's wild to me.
You know,
it's so wild.
What's crazy about being in bed so what they'll experience is lots of atrophy, depression, anxiety will go through the roof. You know, from doing that, you'll see some health markers.
How many days does it take before you get like bed sores and all that?
Well, you have to not move.
That's true. Yeah.
So they'll be hopefully moving.
Yeah.
And your sleep cycle. You know, have you guys have, I'm sure you've been bedridden for something, a surgery or an injury. You notice how your sleep cycle gets all messed up?
Oh, yeah.
You don't sleep well at night.
You're napping in the middle of the day, and then it throws it
You
off.
get that weird wired energy that, you're just laying there.
Anxious
like
and just
spinning.
Yeah, just absolutely terrible. It's one of the worst things. In fact, when you look at the data on, it's so funny, right? The expending energy not only gives you more energy, but also makes sleep better. So it's weird, right? You got to burn energy to create energy, but then doing so also helps with the sleep process. Helps with that.
You know, speaking of sleep, we have 8 Sleep today, and I sure hope they don't get. They shouldn't be upset about this because I think this is super awesome about them. So I don't know how many total beds that we have between all of us and our houses that have 8 Sleep in them. We've got quite a few, right?
Yeah.
Since we were introduced to the brand, I think it's been over 2 years now. I have used my 8 Sleep every single night.
You swear by it.
Every single
Off
night.
air, you swear by it.
And I got a leak. First time ever. And how I found out was such a pain in the ass because I didn't even know. Like I'm laying in bed and I'm like, I'm all wet. My ass is all wet. Like, I get up and I'm like,
you're like, not again.
So I actually didn't even, 8 Sleep didn't even dawn on me like that. I thought, oh shit, I spilled something in the bed. So I got a towel. I put a towel over it and stuff like that. I was too lazy to change the sheets out right then and there. I'm like, yeah, it's just probably water I spilled or something. So I laid the towel there. And then like 2 hours later in the middle of the night, like that towel gets soaked and now I'm soaked again. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's gross. And then I realized like, oh shit, maybe one of the tubings or something like that cracked. And I was thinking about lately, one of the things that Max and I do a lot, which is probably the reason for this, is we wrestle pretty aggressively.
Pro wrestling?
Yes, pretty aggressively on the bed, body slamming and diving. And I'm like, probably not a good idea on that. But the reason bringing it up was just the customer service at 8 Sleep was just incredible.
Oh, really?
Like immediately, it didn't even finish like explaining what I thought it was or like that. They're like, we'll send you a new one. Yeah, we'll send you a new mattress cover. Also, what was really cool was that when I took it apart, my mattress was completely dry and fine because it's got that protective plastic at the bottom of it.
Oh, so even though it was a sheet.
Yeah, so it's just a sheet.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's great.
So even though my sheets were soaked and it was a nightmare for that night, when I actually put like my big concern was like, oh shit, I hope that didn't soak my mattress.
Wow.
And I pull out mattress is completely dry because it's got that protectant, and so it just got the sheets.
And they're right away sending you a new one.
Yeah, right. I mean, right away they said we'll have one out to you. But so that was the night before last. Last night was my first night sleeping without it. Holy shit, did I not realize what a difference that is. I mean, I've been so conditioned to getting in a cold bed and like it regulating my temperature all night that I forgot what it was like to lay on a mattress without that. I mean, like I said, for 2 years straight, I've had that every single night in my house. And it is like, I heat the sheets up so fast. I don't care how cool it is in the house. Like I've now become like, this is something that I gotta have because it makes that big of a difference with my sleep.
Oh, I hate that wake up in the middle of the night, too hot, take off the sheets.
That's the worst.
Then you get cold, put the sheet back on. It's like, that totally sucks.
That's what makes those things so awesome is the AI figures you out. So it almost felt like I didn't realize what a difference it was until I didn't have it because it's done such a good job of
being mild and gentle.
Yeah, exactly.
What you need.
Yeah, it's not like I remember when we first worked with the other company, they basically you set the temperature at whatever you wanted. And so I'd have to set it as the lowest setting, but then I'd be like, oh, freezing. Mm-hmm. Where this, because the AI has figured out where it needs to be all the time with me, it's like it always just feels cool and comfortable. It never feels freezing cold or unbearable because it's adapted to my body temperature.
Wow. There was I found this. You ever seen those on social media where it says like the percentage of adults who do this, and it's like starts in 1930 and then it keeps going to the current time, and you can see, how things shift with either like GDP or it could be how many people smoke or whatever. Well, I saw one from 1930 to 2024 with how people spent their time.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
So what are our categories?
Family, school, friends, neighbors, church, restaurants, college, coworkers, and online. Okay.
Well, online wasn't very high back then.
Zero, right? So here's what's trippy. So I took 1930 and 2024. I screenshotted both of them. In 1930, the average person spent 22% of their time with family, 20% with friends, and 10% with neighbors, and almost 10% in the church. So you add that up, you're with people all the time.
More than half the time.
All the time.
That's more than half the time you're with somebody.
Today, 60% online.
Wow.
13% with friends, 8% with coworkers, 4% with family.
Wow.
4%
That's sad.
with family. From 22% to 4%. Church 2%, whereas before It was almost 10%. So what's crazy about this?
What a shift in culture in just a short period of time.
And we wonder why we have so many mental health issues. What's crazy about this to me is that today versus 1930, we have so many time-saving devices that take and make things far more efficient. Okay, we have, they didn't use these all the time in 1930. We have washing machines, we have dishwashers,
microwave.
We have microwaves.
Yeah.
Everybody has a really easy stove and oven. People eat out quite a bit. We have computers that manage our schedules. Freeways. We have jet airplane. I mean, we have all these time-saving devices that are supposed to give us more time. And what they've done is destroyed our time and just put us on time-saving devices that are online. It went from 20% of our time with family to 4%.
That's so interesting, Sal, too, because you've all heard this before, where they survey people on their deathbed, and almost always they say
spend more time with
my family.
Yep.
So here we have all these devices that give us more time. So technically,
what we do is we fill it with crap.
And we hear all this wisdom from older people that are passing, saying, I'd give all the money in the world, everything I've ever made, or everything I did in work to get just more time with my family. Yeah. And yet we are continuing. What do you think that is? Like, it's not a lack of us knowing. That most people that are listening to this right now are probably familiar with the surveys that have been taken on people like that say that. So I don't think that's new news to anybody. I think everybody is very aware that all this cool technology that we have absolutely saves time.
I think we take each other for granted. In the past, we were together a lot because we had to be. So we depended on being around each other and working together. So it was a part of our life. And so we took it for granted. We took the value of it for granted. And we've made things so that you don't need to be around people. And now being around people requires a little bit of work, right? It requires, like, I got to get through social anxiety, got to talk to that person, got to deal with that issue, got to not be so isolated. It's just like eating processed food is so much faster and easier and maybe, and palatable, but the negative effects are just terrible. So I think it's just...
Yeah, and I think even in your immediate family can easily be segmented. Like, we could all have different things that we're drawn to, or I'm justifying for work, or I'm outside working on things around the house, or Courtney's doing something else, and the kids are in their room, and so I've been very consciously, intentionally trying to address that and pull outside and bring back stuff like wiffle ball, games and home run derby and, whatever it is like that. I can get physical activity that we all collectively do together, but it's so hard. It's like you have to be super intentional.
You have to be intentional. And a majority of families in 1930 ate 2 meals together every day.
Yeah.
They ate breakfast and lunch together. Today, nobody eats breakfast together.
Breakfast and dinner.
And a majority of people don't even eat dinner together.
Yeah.
They used to eat breakfast and dinner.
Yeah.
All together. That alone was just time.
I will. So I always want to try and be balanced with because I hammer tech a lot, right? I've been hammering tech for a long time, iPads, tools like that. There has been something recently that's developed in our household that I actually really like related to the iPad. It's become, you guys know that for the longest time, traditionally, I read to Max before bed and a couple books with that. So in the last, this has probably been going on for almost a year now, I'd say. Every day of the week, he FaceTimes and reads to one of the family members.
Oh, that's great.
And such a cool way. I've got my mom who's hours away. I've got my uncle and aunt who live in another state. We've got my dad who's in another place. Like, I've got family all over the country. So of course I would rather them spend that time with them in person. And Katrina's mom gets to do that, right? Katrina's mom's with him at least once or twice a week, every week in person, which obviously I value that. But it has allowed him to be able to do that and connect that. And it's really cool to watch like this. He tells them stories or he reads to them and they're interacting and he's on FaceTime. So there have been things where like that's a really cool thing. Like, I mean, everybody in here probably has family that's in another state and has kids. So the fact that he's been able to connect with them on that level, that's been a really cool positive way that I've been able to use that tool.
Yeah, and I think Justin said it right, though. You have to be very intentional. Because if you're not intentional, it's really easy to not be around anybody.
Yeah.
And that's really bad for us. Really, really bad for our health.
They definitely engineer the environment for that.
I was going to ask, I think, Doug, are you the one that uses Caldera Labs eye serum or is it eye cream often?
I use all their stuff.
Okay. How do you feel about the eye cream? What's it? Is it called eye cream? What's it called?
Yeah, I don't know the exact name of it.
Maybe you
honestly.
can find. Get the name because I want to make sure I'm not directing people the wrong way. But I haven't used that.
Addressing
I've
the
used
bags and the eye circles.
Yeah.
So I use the
tired look.
I use the serum, which is my favorite, and then I use the face cream. But now I use them both.
Eye serum.
Eye serum.
Yeah.
So
how do you like it?
What I like to know is the difference between that and the face serum because they feel similar, but I know there's got to be something in the eye to make it
anti-inflammatory.
Yeah,
compounds.
I think so. I think it's things that help reduce, the swelling,
the puffy eyes.
That's right.
Stuff.
Yeah,
it's got natural anti-inflammatory compounds in there that reduce and help constrict some of the blood vessels and stuff under the eye.
Oh,
so to reduce the swelling.
So really good for somebody who that's a chronic thing for you, right? If you have bags under your eyes or you have a lot, that'll probably be a good idea to use that.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
interesting.
that runs in my family, so I'm asking about it because I'm like, I'm going to start using that as well because I was only using the face serum, and now I started using the cream and the serum, and combined, it's like amazing. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, I'll have
to do that next time. Like, obviously, I've had times where I
just do one
puffy eye. Yeah. I'm really curious to see what a difference.
You don't get puffy eyes.
I do sometimes. Oh, really? Yeah, bro, I have fat face. Of course, you have puffy eyes.
That's puffy everything though.
Yeah, no, fat face and puffy eyes are like hand in hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I get real squinty. When I'm tired.
Squinty eyes.
Is there anything for that?
Put it on your whole eye.
Okay.
I don't know if it helps. Full spectrum hemp oil isn't just CBD. It is CBD, but it's also other cannabinoids and terpenes. They all work together for what's known as the entourage effect. What do? They improve anxiety, lift your mood, reduce pain, help you with sleep. There is no company that makes a CBD product like Ned. They're the best. Go check them out. Go to helloned.com/mind pump. That's HELLONED.com/mind pump. Use the code mind pump. Get 20% off. All right, back to the show. This segment of the podcast is brought to you by Mind Pump Fitness Coaching. This is the #1 course that teaches trainers and coaches how to build sustainable 6-figure plus businesses and careers in fitness. Look, it's roundtable based, so you can hear Adam, Justin, and myself teaching you how to build a better business, get more leads, close more deals, close bigger deals, and be more effective trainers. By the way, our course is nationally recognized. In fact, it gives you 1.9 CEUs with or for your NASM certification. Find out more at mindpumpfitnesscoaching.com.
Our first caller is Clifton from Alabama.
What's up, Clifton?
Good morning.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Chilling.
How can we help you?
Just wonderful. I really appreciate you guys taking my call, and I just want to say you guys have changed every aspect of my life in a positive way, from my faith to my marriage to my diet to every aspect of working out. And Justin, even to my workout music, I have Scranton Stranglers.
Oh yes,
working out. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. I'll have to tell my friend Adam. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I'm 29 years old, 172 pounds. I pretty athletic build. I have a lot of trouble building a lot of muscles, so I'm pretty lean. But one thing that I've had an issue with, and it's become more prominent, is at the very lowest part of my back, my muscles are really uneven. So my right side is much, much larger than my left. And I don't know the terms, I don't know the names for the muscles down there, but I've tried Googling it, and it's a little bit confusing. But I really like deadlifting and squatting. That's two of my favorite lifts. And I can feel the engagement in my lower back when I do deadlifts and squats, but I can feel that it's heavier on the right side than the left. I know I'm engaging more on the right, and my right muscle, whatever that muscle's called down there, is way bigger than the left one. And I'm trying to figure out how to even my back out and what exercises I can do.
All right, good. You sent some photos, I think, Doug. It says up there. If we could take a look at those.
It's probably a rector spinae.
Yeah.
Are you? Do you have map symmetry yet?
No, I've run anabolic and aesthetic.
That's gonna be the program for you.
That'll be the program.
Yeah,
training unilaterally. Sure. Yeah, and I can't. We're not looking at the pictures yet, but if you say low back, it's probably erector spinae. You do a lot of deadlifting because you're following those two programs. Do you use an over/under grip?
So I alternate. I do over up to 315, and then I do over under left, and I alternate left and right to keep it even.
Okay. That looks like erector spinae development, but it could be the shadow. But you feel it, the engagement different? Oh, you got a little bit of
you can tell.
you got a little bit of a shortened side too. Looks like a little QL tightness.
Yep.
Symmetry would be the way I would train you, and I would train you like that for like a year to balance that out, and it will balance out. But it looks like one side you have your QL, so quadratus lumborum looks a little shortened, so that means your hip is a little elevated, and there might be some compensation going on with the erector spinae muscle. This isn't uncommon. This is not uncommon. It's not super common, but it's also not uncommon. But again, the way to fix something like this, especially at your age, this will get fixed, is if you train unilaterally for a good year, it should balance out pretty well.
The hardest part about this is going to be the mental part of having to really reduce the weight because you have enough of a discrepancy that we can visually see it. You're probably quite a bit stronger on one side than the other, and that's going to need to dictate your program for the year. Like, don't I saw your numbers. You lift pretty good weight. When you go to single leg and single arm, everything, you're going to be significantly less. And then when you go to the weaker side, you're going to be even way less. And that needs to dictate your programming. You've probably heard us talk about this before with people, is when you're trying to balance this out, you start on the weaker side always, and that dictates what you do on the other side. So, and it's going to feel really weird on the strong side because you'll be like, this feels like nothing. I'm not getting enough workout. You are. Don't worry. This is how we balance it out, and then eventually it will balance out. But you're going to probably need to run. So in symmetry, there's the early phase is isometrics, then we get in unilateral, and then we finish in bilateral. Probably would keep you out of bilateral and just keep repeating the all the unilateral work for a good year before I tested you bilaterally.
Yeah. I have 3 because I've had QL issues for a long time, but like 3 very specific exercises I work on all the time. And one is a windmill. And if I'm priming with that ahead of time, or even if I'm incorporating it as an exercise within the workout, that, and then suitcase carries, and then also the snake reach. If you look that up, use a stick with that, but it's a really good mobility exercise to kind of help to regain some connectivity there and get you to strengthen it up.
No previous injuries?
No, nothing in the back. I've had, falls and bumps here and there, but nothing major.
Okay. And it just says you didn't play sports, so it could have happened. I mean, I've seen weird things, right? I trained a guy once who had some asymmetry, and it was because he rode a scooter a lot when he was a kid, so he was always kicking on one leg. So, but that can happen. You can definitely balance it out. It just takes time. And what Adam said is very important. You start with the weaker side, let that dictate the weight.
Yeah, and I know that I'm very, very right side dominant. Everything I do, I'm right eye, right leg, right hand, everything. And I do enjoy running, and I really enjoy weightlifting. And there's a lot of things that I do physically, and I know that I'm favoring my right side in everything I do. So I'm not really surprised that I have an imbalance, but that was my question, was how to fix it now, because all these habits are so ingrained. Everything I do is focused on the right side.
Well, what happens when you lift with the barbell is you have a movement pattern that is now your movement pattern, and it's the best movement pattern for you. That's the one you do it best in.
Beneficial compensation. It's your body's just told to do this task, and it's recruiting however it can to make it happen.
Yeah, the example I like to give is like if I learned how to type with just 2 fingers, and I can get and I got really good at it. I've been doing it for 10 years. That's the fastest way I'm going to type. So if I try to type fast, I'm going to 2 fingers. It'll take me a while to do proper typing before I can surpass my crappy technique before. So a good year of map symmetry should balance this out.
I would stay in it for a bit. Yeah.
Yep.
So you really know.
We'll send that to you.
Yeah. Oh, great. I really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Thanks so much for your time.
You got it, brother. Thanks for calling. Have you guys ever had you said your chest, right? You had asymmetry.
Oh, yeah.
I had this in my back, not quite, not there, but I had I was getting a massage, and the therapist goes, "Oh, your right side is really far more well developed." I said, "What?" And then I went up to the wall, and I kind of rounded my shoulders and put my erector spinae up against the wall, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And the reason why was because I always used an alternate grip,
overhander,
and my heavy lifts are always right hand supinated. So I switched to double overhand, and then that's it. I've been training like that ever since. but it'll take a while, you know?
Yeah, just a little bit from throwing, baseball and all that, but it canceled out pretty quick.
Yeah. And have you guys seen this, the remains of long bowmen?
Yeah.
In the Middle Ages, their bones and their spines are twisted and developed.
Formed that way.
That's right.
Protracted on one side. Crazy.
Our next caller is Jeff from Utah.
What's up, Jeff?
What's up, Jeff?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. Doing good, man.
All right.
Good. Thanks for all the content. It's really good. It's been great. I mean, I discovered you guys a couple of years ago, and I feel like it's really propelled a lot of what I've been able to do in the gym, and just kind of noise cancel out all the BS that you see online. So I appreciate you guys doing what you do.
Awesome, dude. What's happening?
Cool. Yeah. So I just had a quick question about progressive overload. So obviously, I mean, different ways to do it, right? You can increase time under tension. You can increase your reps. You can increase your weight. My question is around, in terms of total volume, because at the end of the day, that's what really propels muscle growth, right? Total volume per week, want to get that up every week, et cetera. So my question is, if you do a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of reps in a session, and then the next session you up the weight, but you can't do the same amount of reps, which is typically what happens, is there a threshold where your total effective volume is not as high as it needs to be? For example, if you're, benching 225 for 12 for 3 sets, and then you increase to, 250 and you can get 3 sets of, 8, obviously the total volume in that second session is going to be less, but you are doing more weight. And then obviously with the goal of increasing over time the reps, that initial volume is going to be a lot lower. I guess I'm just curious to hear you guys' thoughts on that. I mean, that's something that's kind of not, I guess, limited me, but kind of been a thought in the back of my mind of, do I really want to go up in weight if I can't get close to the same amount of reps, right? I hope that makes sense.
No, I get what you're trying to ask right now. And this is the other factor or variable that isn't talked as much about when discussing progressive overload in volume, right? Is the intensity changes. So like you could do 30 reps of everything with really light weight and end up adding more volume than doing like a bunch of 5x5 sets. But the intensity comparison is dramatically different. When you're lifting a weight that you can only do 5 times compared to a weight you can do 30 times, you may not be able to do as much volume as you could with that really light weight, but you're going to get more bang for your buck. So there's that other, you have to factor, it's hard to not factor that in also.
There's no perfect formula, but the best one is sets times reps times weight. And that's the one you tend to use. But if they're close, and by the way, that's within reason, because like Adam said, someone could be like, well, I do 100 reps. Now I'm doing tons of volume, right? So I would say within the rep range of 20, so 20 and lower, but also base it off of how you feel, because it's not a perfect formula. It really isn't.
Yeah.
So you also got to base it off of how you feel. I think 225, the example you sent us here says 225 for 12 versus 235 for 10, which, they're so close. Which one feels harder to you is what I would say. Which one feels more challenging to you? They're so close. They're within 2 reps. I would say they're probably around the same, but it really does depend. And here's another thing too. Like you could have somebody that always trains on low reps. Like I'm like this. Like I like to train really low reps. So, I could do sets of 5 or 6 reps with squats, really heavy weight. I substantially lower the rate and do 20 reps. It's just the intensity for me is way higher with the higher reps. It's just because I'm not accustomed.
Yeah.
So you have to also see how you feel, essentially. But if you're tracking your volume week over week, unless you're making radical strength gains, it's going to be pretty accurate. You'll be able to go up, 5-10% in volume on a weekly basis if everything's, doing well.
Jeff, from my personal experience of tracking my own personal volume over, years of competing and stuff like that, what I kind of noticed was the thing I was more concerned about when I would zoom out from a month is I realized that a lot of times I just didn't progressively overload at all because I'd have these peaks and valleys. I'd have a week that I did really good and I did overload, and then the next week I just organically came back down. And then when I looked back at 30 days, I'm like, oh, I didn't really increase anything. So when I would start to actually go after a goal of like, okay, I need to increase, the one thing I would tell is I just don't want to go backwards for the week. So if I would stay, hey, I want to do at least what I did last week, a minimum of that. If I'm changing the rep range and this or adding weight instead of sets, I just want to make sure that I accomplish the same volume as I did the previous week. I don't want to go backwards. And that seemed to just kind of naturally keep me going forward, was just not allowing myself to go backwards. I didn't have to actually really overload that much more. People think they need to, when they hear, they go as much as they can thinking they're going to get more return from it. And it's not like that. Like you don't need, there's a threshold and there's a point where it's like too much and then all your body's doing is trying to recover. I just didn't want to go backslide. So I would always be tracking my volume, go like, and let's just say a number like 15,000 pounds of volume. It's like, okay, so I got to make sure I accomplish 15,000 pounds this week. And I just would make sure, let's at least get it that way. And whether that was through, heavier weight or more sets or more reps, I was like, I just got to hit that threshold. I just get to that threshold. That's fine at any means I needed to. Yeah. So long as I felt good. Obviously, there would be exceptions to the rule. Got sick or hurt or something wasn't feeling right. I needed more rest. Then, of course, I'm going to listen to my body. But that was just like, don't go backwards, because you'd be surprised how many people go backwards and they don't realize they're going backwards. They had a really great week and they overloaded organically or naturally. And then the next week they just were off, and they didn't push as hard or didn't do as much. And then they backslid 500 or 1,000 pounds of volume. And it's like, and that a lot of times would attribute to why somebody would be in a plateau for a long time. And it's like, if you just set a goal for yourself not to go backwards and at least stay at that same volume, you'd be surprised how well it'll just kind of naturally happen. You'll get stronger. You'll end up adding one more rep or 5 more pounds to the bar, and it kind of just takes care of itself.
You also don't, here's another thing to consider is sometimes what you need to do is reduce overload. That's right. And that gets your body progressing. So sometimes people get really stuck on this formula and they push it, and they're not progressing. And what needs to happen sometimes is a reduction. So that's why this is not a perfect science. We're dealing with the human body in the context of your life. Your body's always changing and your life is always changing and how you perceive it is always changing. So you can't take that out of the equation. If you were a machine, perfect conditions, all controls are the same, then it would be an easy formula. So it's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect.
Yeah. And obviously, there's deload weeks that, people should be incorporating regularly, but I guess just going back to that, making sure that the total volume is the same each week. So if you go up in weight, but you can't do the same amount of reps, obviously if your total volume is lower, should you just add in more sets or should you do?
Sure. I'd just do like an extra set. That's what I would do. I would just do an extra set.
You typically see more sets with low reps, typically.
Yep.
3 sets of 20 for squats tends to be something like 6 sets of 5 or 4 for squats.
Okay. And then just kind of wait until you can get back to that original rep range for 3. If you're doing 3 and then you go to 4 to keep the volume the same.
Sure.
Once you get to that original rep range of 3, then you'd add more weight. I guess I don't want to be adding another set every single time I'm doing a lift, right?
You won't. There's a limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You won't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you do until you reach that limit, because then you'll find yourself hitting a plateau because you got too much volume. And then you hit this point that Sal's talking about where it's like, you need to back off. And that's the best thing you could do to see yourself shoot forward again. It's a tough thing to communicate because there's all kinds of science to support a part of this thing, right? And it's like people extract that one thing and they're like, this is the way to do it. It's like, well, there's a lot of nuance here, and a lot of variables. And so for me, I think one of the best things I learned through tracking as much as I have was like, just being aware. Like you being aware and tracking is actually just a huge, and you obviously know enough to kind of understand the science around progressive overload just by the question you're asking. And so just paying attention to own behaviors and habits was a huge, it was just eye-opening for me to be tracking going, oh shit, I didn't even realize how much I back off on this week versus that week. Just not thinking, I thought it was the same week, but when I really was tracking, I realized there was discrepancy. And so just becoming aware, I think there's just tremendous value in that, especially if you understand that, hey, I'm trying to get stronger. I'm trying to kind of overload the body, and just tracking lets you peer into that and give you more insight. I think that in itself is just, you're already ahead of 90% of the people.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. And I think it's keeping all factors you can the same, right? If you go to a new gym, you know, one machine might feel a little bit lighter and you're like, oh, why can I do so many more reps?
Exactly.
But I think just keeping it as consistent as possible.
Are you following one of the MAPS programs right now?
What's that?
Are you following one of the MAPS programs right now?
No, I did anabolic for a while, but then I linked up with one of my buddies that does training, and he gave me a new program. But honestly, I think it probably would be more effective if I went back to an actual MAPS program.
It would be. That's kind of why we do that. We kind of like build that all into the programs for people. So if you just follow them, you're good. You know what I'm saying? So, you know them all. You got one that you'd like to run next?
No, I mean, would you guys right now, like my main goal is kind of recomp. Like I feel like I've gotten to a point where I have a decent amount of muscle mass. Like I put on 18 pounds in the last year, just because I wasn't training super hard before that. But I've also gained some fat in the process. So definitely don't want to, I actually asked you guys a question a while back on Instagram that you answered about like knowing when you have enough muscle mass to start cutting. And he just basically said, you know, once your strength is at a place where you want it to be, which was great advice. So I feel like I'm at that point where I'm like, yeah, I do want to start leaning out, but don't want to do it too quickly and risk losing any mass, you know?
How many days a week do you in the gym?
What's that?
How many days a week are you in the gym?
I'm usually in 4. So I do an upper lower split.
All right, let's send him MAPS Anabolic Advanced.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I was going to guess you're a golfer, and I was like, performance. Just by looking at you.
Yeah, I do love golfing, basketball golfing. So I'm a little bit thinner, just in, 6'2", 205 right now, but just want to get down a little bit leaner.
Yeah. We'll send you MAPS Anabolic Advanced. Enjoy.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You got it, man. Take it easy.
Have a good one.
It's
you look like a golfer.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking the whole time.
I got that vibe too.
Exercise, strength training in particular, trying to get your body to progress, get results. It's both a science and an art. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
And this is where
you can't just math your way through the whole thing.
This is where a lot of people mess up, especially the study fanatics, the online coaches that really don't have experience training lots of different people, but they're very, very well versed in studies. This is where they go wrong, is that they don't have experience with lots of different people, understand the art aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it is both. And I've seen I've seen oftentimes, things that work for almost everybody not work for somebody. It happened enough times for me to realize, okay, we got to figure this out.
We try and give people very general good advice that if you just apply this one thing or just do this, you'll get the biggest bang for your buck. Yeah. And my advice when speaking to the audience that's curious about progressive overload and volume is simply just track. Don't actually overthink that. It's kind of like telling someone to just track their macros. It's like
the awareness alone.
Just the awareness.
Just what you're doing.
Yeah, just the awareness. Like if you understand a protein, a carb, and fat, and that you need to hit your protein, like the importance of those things, just you tracking and becoming aware of your habits is enough of the science to totally help you a lot. I feel the same way about tracking volume. Like, yeah, if you know that ultimately you want to get stronger, you want to increase volume over time, as long as you just track and just pay attention to kind of where your volume's been at, you'd be surprised how much that just enlightens you. Because this is what I found was like, wow, I didn't realize that, when I zoomed out, I really haven't added any volume over the last 2 months. I was actually just in these peaks and valleys. And when I look back over the course of 30 days, I was actually staying the same. And so just becoming aware of that and setting little goals. Okay, I just don't want to go backwards this week. Let's just stay on pace. Made a huge difference. And obviously I competed at a really high level when it comes to building muscle. And so I didn't have to go any deeper than that. I didn't have to get really, really scientific about, okay, how do I overload this week? It was just like, just don't go backwards, Adam, and you'll be okay.
Our next caller is Katie from Texas.
Hi, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
How can we help you?
Hello.
Guys, I feel like we are all familiar friends. I've heard your voices so much over the years.
Awesome.
So, lovely to meet you.
Yes.
Same.
I will tell you a little bit more about myself before diving into the question. So I'm Katie. I'm 31 years old, 5'8", 155 pounds, and I was 18% body fat back in December. Last time I did a DEXA scan before starting MAPS Anabolic. I'm pretty healthy, like great diet, hormones, everything, all good, very consistent menstrual cycle, everything like that. So, and I put on muscle very easily. So, hopefully, it should be a fun question as I dive in.
All right.
I'm an experienced lifter. I used to teach small group strength training for about 3.5 years and stopped that before starting this program. And I've listened to you guys for about 5 years. So, I'm a massive fan. I owe so much of my success to you guys, just in my fitness knowledge and as a coach to you. So, thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So why I am writing in. So obviously one of the limitations, I know you guys have discussed it at length with group fitness, is kind of having to teach to the lowest common denominator, not really being able to individualize programming. So very true in the facility where I taught as well. And one of the areas where that came to light was with squat depth. So we very much coached with back squats and everything like that, like stop when your hamstrings are parallel to the ground, come back up from there. That's going to be the safest and most optimal range of motion for the masses with the least risk of injury. So when I was a coach, I took the programming at the gym where I taught and very much adhered to how I would coach it. Just knowing people would watch when I was taking class. And I would say in general, the way that I lift is very textbook, just as far as like always the optimal placement of where things should be, like lining up the elbows with the body, things like that on certain movements. So perhaps a little bit rigid and a little bit constricted to those safest ranges of motion. But that said, I am extremely hypermobile. So in switching to MAPS Anabolic, I've been able to start doing more of that astrogast squat, and my quads have transformed. Like I had very good quads before starting MAPS Anabolic, but like now doing that full range of motion, I've got like much more of that like meaty quad shape. And it's crazy. And it's just in terms of the strength and definition, everything like that, like it has unlocked a whole new level as far as my lower body. And that's not to say, I mean, like my whole body in general has like, I've experienced a lot of just really positive change from MAPS Anabolic, but that extra range of motion, I mean, it's wild, guys, as far as just what I've been able to unlock. So why I'm calling in, I mean, I really don't experience, like, I know there's so much doom and gloom with hypermobility, like people write in, and there tends to be a lot of pain with it. There tends to be a lot of risk, but I really don't run into that. I follow a lot of the advice that you guys have already given as far as preventing injury and how to really control and pause and that extended range of motion so that it's safe. But I kind of want to have some more fun with it. Like I feel like there's this untapped range of motion that obviously I've found with my lower body that I've been able to work with just in doing MAPS Anabolic. And I'm like, okay, where else am I being super restrictive with the ranges of motion of focusing on that safe, like optimal range versus maximizing where I can go? So first part of the question, I mean, there are a lot of instances of like, just because I can doesn't mean I should. Like, just because I can do a back bend doesn't mean I should do bicep curls in a back bend. Like, there's still benefit to having like a braced core. But are there other areas where I could really benefit from going a little bit beyond the optimal range? So it's like, I mean, I think like with a military press, for example, it's like, okay, optimal range, you're going to have elbows here so you can really lock in with that anterior delt. But like, if I can go really far behind my body, would that add benefit? Like, are there places where I can push it a little bit as far as going into that more extended position? And I think the other like follow-up question is just in terms of the programming and where to go next. I mean, obviously I'd love to do some more of the unconventional stuff. So like what should I check out as far as some of those new ranges of motion or new ways to incorporate rotation, things like that?
So the first thing I thought of when you talked about the squat was the squat of the upper body, which would be like a shoulder press. And especially since you just said, talking about stopping at like 90 degrees, if you don't do a full barbell press where you bring the barbell all the way down to your chest and your elbows are tucked down by your side and then all the way up, or doing like one of Justin's favorite, which is like a kettlebell where you actually spiral and get all the way fully extended and bring all the way back down. there's huge opportunity for strength there. Also, you mentioned the kind of behind the neck pressing. We just did it. Did the episode go live?
I don't know if it went live, but we just talked about it.
Yeah, we actually just did an episode where the title was like the 5 exercises you're not doing or something like that. I don't remember what we entitled it, but one of Sal's favorites in there is the behind the neck shoulder presses. And
awesome.
So if you can do behind the neck with good control and safely, like lots of benefit to that, to do that.
Yeah.
So I think those are 2 that come to mind right away.
So Katie, first I'll answer the second part of the question. I think you'd love Old Time Strength.
Yeah, I think I was immediately thinking that.
Great program. We'll send that to you. I think you'll love it.
Awesome.
You said you have hypermobility. Were you diagnosed hypermobile or is this self-diagnosis?
I think it runs in the family. I mean, I haven't had a doctor specifically say like you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or something like that. Okay. But like I've got the stretchy skin, I got all the double jointedness. I can really go in a lot of different directions, and it definitely is something that's like my mom has it, grandma has it.
I'm only asking because when you're diagnosed, then it's a whole nother level, right? But,
right.
Okay, so you just have hypermobility. You've identified since you were a kid. It runs in your family. Okay,
it's just super flexible.
And how long have you been strength training?
So as far as like really well-programmed strength training, it's probably been about 5 to 6 years, but I've lifted weights. I mean, I was an athlete in high school.
Okay, good.
I did like the bikini body guide workouts when I was in college, like that kind of stuff. But as far as like really well-programmed and like getting like barbells and everything involved, that's probably been about 6 years.
All right. So you're advanced. You know what you're doing. And you said you were you're a coach, you know, exercise. Yeah. Okay, good. That's going to help me a lot with how I answer this. So generally speaking, okay, and people don't like it when I say this, but it's true. Any range of motion that you have control and stability within, in other words, any range of motion that you feel you own is safe.
Is good.
Okay, so it means anything, literally anything. And you can look up a Jefferson curl, for example, which is, you know, there's a Zercher version of that Soviet wrestlers used to do. Greco wrestlers used to do because it would help them lift people off the mat. If you saw someone in the gym doing that, you'd be like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? They're going to kill your back." Type of deal.
For sure.
There are contortionists that use strength training, and they use it in very unconventional ways, and for what they do, which is extremely extreme. If you ever watch a contortionist, it's like, it's crazy. The risk of injury is they actually do pretty well considering what they're doing because of how they. So my answer to you is. Anywhere where you could move in a deeper range of motion, go ahead and do that, but do it very slowly and incrementally. Okay, so
like it's a brand spanking new exercise you've never done ever. Like be in terms of like I would even, you know, are you familiar with kin stretch at all? Like I know mobility is a thing, but like in terms of you really being able to gain recruitment in that range of motion, if it's an end range that you've never used before, to start there and really just start with the isometric contraction and really like focus on, you know, the ability to have strength to move out of that position.
Yes.
And then we start loading, and then, you know, it's a very slow progressive way to do it. But the problem is a lot of people drop into these new ranges of motions that might even be like 1 to 2 inches, you know, below what they've normally done. And this is like potential for injury, and especially if you have hypermobility.
Yeah. So I would go much lighter, and I would challenge the range of motion. And I would use isometrics. Isometrics are your friend. So to give you an example, you're doing ass to grass squats now.
Yeah.
You could stand on 2 benches with 1 foot on either side, and you could do kind of a sumo squat version with no weight or 5 pounds, and just go down as low as you can with good technique, good control, stop at the bottom, and then tighten everything up, including the muscles of your upper body. Really create an isometric hold and contraction. Hold that. Come out of it slowly. That's the exercise. And what you're doing is you're strengthening or connecting to a new range of motion. Then when you want to challenge it with resistance, you go lighter than you think, because here's what happens. Because I've worked with people with hypermobility, actually more clients than I should have, considering that it's quite rare. And what you would find is you would, even if you're like, oh, this feels good. I think I can do this. Everything looks good. Technique's great. The next day they hurt. So you want to go easier than you think and slowly challenge ranges of motion in whatever exercise you want to do. So if you're just coming down to 90 degrees with a shoulder press, then what you could do, let's say you're using a 65 pounds, okay, 45 pound barbell with the 10 on each side. I'd go down to a 20 pound barbell and I go real slow all the way down. And when you're going down all the way, there's no relaxing. Stay tight, squeeze the bar, tense up your scapula, keep everything connected, then go all the way up and pause at the top, connect to everything. That's the movement. So if you do it that way, you'll be able to find crazy adaptations from different ranges of motion. So it'll be exciting for you if you do it right. It'll be fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, it's like, I think that's the challenge just when you're coaching is that just because someone can go so deep in a squat, it's like you hit a point where your muscles aren't engaged at a certain level. Right. And I think that's where I'm like, okay, where can I push it where I still feel the muscle, but it's definitely still in a further range of motion than what would be
the stretch position really is hypertrophy gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So much unlocked potential.
Oh yeah. Like a fly, you do a fly, you could cut the weight down in 50% and really kind of challenge the depth a little bit. Make sure you stay connected. Watch what happens. Like this could be true for almost any exercise.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know with my squat, I've definitely gone way down in weight as far as what I could push just at that like horizontal stopping position. Yes. But I mean, obviously it's resulted in pretty big gains from that perspective. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I very much, I've just had so many rules in my head of like, no, you have to stop here because it's in the textbook. But no, this is awesome and super, super validating. I mean, it's kind of one of those where it's like, I can go really far with the range of motion. I feel like I'm limiting myself.
Yes, but go easier than you think. That's the last. I'll just say that one more time. That's it. Yeah. And we're going to send you old time strength. You're going to love old time strength.
No, I'm excited. I mean, I definitely, I love anabolic and those are all movements I love and I'm familiar with. But yeah, I'm like, what haven't I tried? Like some of like Justin's
old time
mace throwing and things like that. Yeah. Like what's some weird stuff I can throw in?
Too, if you get, I'm about to launch this series on YouTube, but like have gone through a lot of these unconventional lifts and explain my reason and rationale with it and, the progression of that. So yeah, if you get a chance, check that out.
Yeah, but I would love to hear back from you after you do old time strength. Yeah. Maybe have you come back on in a few months.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, We'll see. Perhaps I'll be on Cirque du Soleil next. Doing all the contortionist stuff.
All right, are you making the trainer webinars? Have you been showing up to our trainer webinars?
No, I haven't. I am not really coaching anymore. I kind of quit it was like a side hustle for me. So I kind of quit so I could do my own stuff and have a little fun with it. But
okay, so
obviously I miss it.
You're not okay. I thought you were coaching still. If you're coaching still, I see you got to be in there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Katie.
No.
All right, Katie.
Awesome. I appreciate the time, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Have fun.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, those ranges of motion. When I first met my wife, because she did the silks, her range of motion was, especially in her lower body, was insane. But because she did the silks, she was strong because she'd have to suspend herself.
Tension in that.
She'd suspend herself in the splits. So like one foot on either side in a silk, the middle of her body not supported. She'd have to hold herself up. So, on accident, because she didn't understand at that time, she wasn't a well-versed trainer. She developed strength in these really crazy ranges of motion. It's all about connection. And isometrics is your friend when this is you.
Our next caller is Amelia from Colorado.
Amelia,
how you doing?
Welcome back.
Hi.
Just for context, so you're coming back. This is we're revisiting you. But last time we talked to you, you were a dancer. You were training like crazy or doing a lot of dance, which was very vigorous. Plus, you're doing tons of strength training. We advised you to lay back way off, do MAPS 15 because you want to build some strength. And now here you are. What happened?
Okay. So initially when I started MAPS 15, my strength went up, squat went up 20 pounds.
Yeah.
I felt more energized leaving the gym instead of like I could nap for days sort of thing. It's been really nice going to the gym and like not being like, oh, I have to be here for 3 hours. Just the quick in and out was mentally more easy for me. I kept in the cardio 2 days a week just because I wanted to keep my stamina. So when I got back to dance, I wasn't behind. Mm-hmm. Previously, I talked about how I wanted to build my glutes. So I was working on that mind muscle connection, kind of doing light hip thrust, like more pump work before I would do lower body compounds just to try and connect more. When school started back up in January, my strength went down. My squat decreased 10 pounds. It was kind of hard to progress because one week weight would go up and maintain, and then the next it would go down, and that was tough. Sometimes I tried to keep the weight up and sacrifice form, but then I'd be like, no, I know what you guys say about practicing the skill. I'm now week 3, phase 1 of MAPS 15 performance. I'm still doing the cardio 2 days a week, hip thrust pump work. I've never trained power before, so I'm kind of like excited and nervous about this because it's new. But yeah, I know last time we talked, you said it's to be expected that with dance coming back, I'm not going to be able to have the leaps and bounds and strength gains.
Because it's a lot, right? How often are you doing dance? Like, and how long is it? Just for context.
It's so it can be 2 to 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. It varies, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
New developments. I learned that I have facet joint arthritis in L4, L5, and S1 because of some transitional vertebrae and dance. I know last time I talked about getting back pain from certain moves. And then I was also told I have diastasis recti and a hypertonic pelvic floor, and was told that I need to change how I lift concerning bracing, pulling in instead of pushing out, exercise selection, and then adjustments for my back. I'm kind of, after hearing that, I'm kind of at a loss for what to do navigating all this information, which leads me to, I guess, a kind of advice question regarding going forward. As we talked about before, I've had a lot of health problems that I've had to navigate on my own just because I haven't received much help, and I've been researching and debating getting formal education, and it kind of relates to workout wise. After all these new developments and recommendations, I was thinking about getting my CPT so I can like train myself in a way and understand what I should do because it is so personalized, or if I should just get a personal trainer who's willing to educate me. I live near Cola Sports Performance, and I heard one time in a podcast you guys talked about him and how great he is. So kind of like how I'm taking my health into my own hands, I'm debating on taking my fitness into my own hands.
Awesome.
I was just curious your thoughts on that, and please ask me if you need any more details on anything I just said. I'm happy to give them.
So with facet joint arthritis, if you do good technique, good form with your strength training, that'll help prevent any progression of that. That can happen when you're challenging ranges of motion in extreme ways, which can happen with dance. But strength training is going to help protect that. Now, the hypertonic pelvic floor. Okay, so that for people listening, essentially your pelvic floor muscles are kind of constantly tensed. So you're holding tension in your pelvic floor. That can come from the result of either trauma to the pelvic floor or the lower body, or just anxiety and stress, or what tends to happen when we don't feel safe is we tend to tense up our pelvic floor muscles. We tend to tense those up, and so they're hypertonic. They're always tensed up. The solution for it is exercises or movements that help you relax. So belly breathing, practicing really deep belly breathing would be a good way to work on that. And then if you want to find an exercise specialist, I would work with a pelvic floor specialist who has experience working with this. But this is not an exercise. Like, the way you train your body typically is by connecting and tensing. The way you train something like this is connecting and relaxing. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn how to feel your pelvic floor and then learn how to release it and relax it. And belly breathing can help a lot with that, but it's not the only solution. It's not the ultimate solution, but it's definitely a start.
Yeah, I looked for a pelvic floor specialist. That's actually who diagnosed, or I don't know if diagnose is the right word, but told me that I have that and the diastasis recti. Yeah. And funnily enough, when I did the deep belly breaths, it almost made it worse. I don't know how to describe it, or like I'd feel even more anxious.
Yeah. All right. So here's what's happening with that.
Yeah.
So this is cool. Yep. I'll tell you a story. I had a client once when I learned real belly breathing. I had this woman come in. She was an executive. I'd been training her for 6 months at this point. And I learned belly breathing. I learned these techniques. I said, oh my gosh, she'd be perfect, a perfect candidate for this. And we went to a quiet part of my studio and we did belly breathing for like 3 minutes and she started crying. And I was, at the time I was like, oh, what's happening here? And I talked with the individual that taught me this, and we tend to store either trauma or anxiety or whatever in our body, and then we disassociate from it. So our body's holding it, but we're like, it's not there. When you belly breathe, you're allowing yourself to feel it. So it's coming out, and it's gonna feel uncomfortable. It's gonna feel like anxiety or emotions or lots of different types of things. So that's actually a good sign. It's not a bad sign, but I would practice it to the point to where it's a little unbearable, because that's probably what we experience. Like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, stop right there, and then practice it again tomorrow. See if you can get better at it.
A lot of value of having somebody with you do this. Yep. I mean, it's worth the investment, in my opinion. I think going through a process with somebody and helping and having them take you through, because then you get the benefits of the education part you're talking about too. So you're going to get educated on it while also having somebody basically hold your hand through the process. That's a win-win. So I think it's especially what you're into and how important this is to you. It's such a worthwhile investment to do that. And you'll look back and say it was probably one of the best things you ever did.
Yeah, it's really, the breathing is the antidote to a lot of what's going on. I personally experienced this too, even going through a Wim Hof course, and how they have like really specific breathing patterns and ways to get in position where you're like super parasympathetic, you're hyperoxygenated, and it's just one of those things, if you're not consciously including that, and you're always like so driven and you're always like applying this tension and stress and with movement and exercise and just even your own mental drive and fortitude in that direction, it's inevitably like it's not going to benefit you. We need to be able to get in that other state. So any way that you can do that, like yin yoga, whatever those types of practices are that you can include as some type of an antidote to that, would be great.
If you go on YouTube, you can also look up, and the way to find it, maybe Doug can help me here, would be emotional psoas release. Maybe try that. This is a movement used by therapists to help people release tension or trauma in their body. It's very strange feeling when you get into it. Did you find anything on that, Doug?
I did. Let me pull this up.
Yeah. Why don't we send that? Just send that to Amelia so she can look at it. So you could practice this on your own, and so you could practice, and you'll shake and feel really weird, and then your body's gonna do things that you're on its own, and the belly breathing, and practice that daily, and get to the point where I don't want to go any further, and then stop it there and see if you can get a little better each time, and that'll help you, because the tension in your pelvic floor is because, for whatever reason, there's a lack of safety. Okay. Now it can also come from like lack of safety with movement, where I have my pelvic floor staying tight to stabilize me, but because of your background in dance, I doubt that. I think you could probably do lots of amazing movements without a problem. So I think it's probably something else, and it's either anxiety related or something like that. So I would give that a try.
Okay, yeah, and that kind of, going back to what Justin said about maybe doing like yin yoga and stuff like that, it makes me think about whenever I go to do cardio, sometimes I'll get anxiety, like feel like I'm going to have a panic attack almost. So I don't know if that's...
Yes.
Well, that's probably a sign that I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. Your body's talking to you, for sure. Yeah,
your body's talking to you. So slowing down and movements that slow you down are going to be the key.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is probably why you feel so good being busy all the time.
Sorry?
I said this is probably why you feel so good being so busy.
Right.
Would you say you're a busy go, always doing something? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's something in there. There's something in there, and so it'll start to come out. You got to get through it. Otherwise, it'll start to manifest in far worse ways than an injury here or there.
Yeah. Okay. So the belly breathing and all that, and then you suggested I should probably get a trainer if that's an option to.
Yeah, a pelvic floor specialist.
Yeah.
And you can even find therapists that also
Somebody
specialize.
good to talk to, as you're going through it.
Just be good for the accountability too.
Yep.
Technique of it.
Yep.
You know, take you through it. And
I know
again,
this kind of sounds crazy. You know, you probably look at me like, what are you talking about? But the reason why the pelvic floor movement felt like it was giving you anxiety is what I'm saying. And there are therapists that also understand pelvic floor work because they're so closely connected. So if you could find someone that does both, that would be the best.
Yeah, okay. I'll look into that. And then training wise, how I mentioned Brian Cola, or not Brian.
Kula,
yeah.
Or
they're
yeah,
great.
do you
He's
think
amazing.
They're
but
great.
Yeah, I think that's a different thing.
Absolutely great.
Yeah.
that's a good course then?
Yes.
Okay. And then yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other questions.
You're doing great.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you made
I
good
probably
progress.
do have a bunch of other questions, but then I would just spiral into I like to know a lot of stuff, if you can tell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We like you a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you guys.
Yeah, you got
Sorry,
it.
that
Just
was
send
keep
too
coming back.
Hey,
enthusiastic.
do you have MAPS Prime Pro? Because that's got some good correctional exercises.
do.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
All right. Are you on our forum? Can I get you on our forum for free?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got everything.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stay in
All
touch.
right.
Stay in touch with us. Let us know. I'd love to hear if you find a specialist in your area because I think that's one of the best routes you could go.
Yep.
You get all the benefit, the education, everything from that. You know, doing that with a good coach and trainer.
Okay. And any questions, I should just tag you guys in the forum then?
Yes.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
You got it.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for having me back on, and thank you for guiding me through all of this. Yeah, just immense gratitude.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Amelia.
Thanks, Amelia.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Yeah, I hate dropping that on such a short conversation.
I know it's a
there's a lot of.
you were being sensitive to not go real deep and ask, but did we the first time we talked to her, did we get into childhood trauma or anything like that? We didn't. No, we're dancing around that.
Well, I mean, it's not our scope.
Yeah,
and I would typically, as a
up to her to
trainer,
go.
Well,
come
I'm not.
forward
We don't
with
have
that.
to. We don't have to fucking diagnose her, but we didn't even ask her. Are you aware of childhood trauma that you went through? And
so typically pelvic floor. When you have that hypertonic, because again, it's your body doesn't feel safe, and it can just be anxiety and stress overall, because we tend to tighten ourselves up in that region of the body when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, there's something there.
But it could also be, and sometimes it is, sexual trauma. So and then the body it tightens up, and if it happens before you remember. It can be something that's hard to process.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it is. It's just, the person's like, oh yeah, this happened to me, and not realizing it because she lives with it, so she doesn't even know that she's constantly tight in that.
Well,
area.
and that speaks also to your other point of like knowing that type of person tends to also like to keep themselves really busy.
It makes perfect sense.
Because it
You're
keeps
running.
them it keeps me distracted from having to do the work and
That's
think
right.
about the things that I don't want to think about.
That's right.
So she's on the right path.
Yeah.
So, I definitely think this is a situation where yes, you could try and solve this yourself, but I mean, this is a worthwhile investment because
Totally.
You need somebody to talk
This could
with,
be
yeah.
life changing.
Oh, my
This
God.
just absolutely.
But she's got
sure.
she's got a lot of work ahead of her if that's the case. But if she gets through it,
She's chipping
Your
away
life
at
changing.
it.
All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat. For men, this is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.